button. Great. It goes red, you're live. Perfect. You don't want that. Light goes red, you're live.
Let's please call the meeting to order. Good morning. Good morning to everyone. Welcome. Welcome to everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your interest in the work of this board, and thank you for your interest in the work of the district. And for today's meeting, we're going to start with an invocation, and I understand the chaplain from the fire department is going to give that. And so if you'll please introduce yourself to us and do your good work, sir.
Yes, sir. My name is Rick Spence. I retired as a firefighter after 30 years here at Reedy Creek Fire Department and have stayed on the last 4 years as their chaplain. It's been a blessing for me to be able to do that, and this is an honor and a privilege for me to be able to stand before this board and give an invocation. I appreciate this very much, and I don't take it lightly. I take it very serious there. Do you mind if I go ahead and pray now? Most gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you right now. We just want to lift up the men and women who are working hard here to accomplish the task and the business at hand. We ask that you would just give them wisdom, discernment, guidance as they make these decisions, and just allow their minds to be clear and just make the decisions that's best for all those who are involved. We appreciate the hearts of service that each person here has, and just continue to bless that and grow. We just ask if you're protection upon the men and women who are on the job today. Allow them to be able to mitigate the things that come before them, and also be with the men and women of our armed forces. Keep them out of harm's way. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you for your blessing, sir. We appreciate it. And now let's honor our country with a Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we would like a safety procedure presentation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We'd like to start the meeting like we do every meeting with some safety messages for our guests and visitors. To those who are visiting us for the first time, we'd like to remind you that we are on the second floor of the building, so in the event of an evacuation, you will need to take the stairs. There's an exit sign right here, and for those of you sitting in the front, you may not be able to see it, but there is an exit sign behind that screen. You can also exit through the door that you entered through. If you are not able to take the stairs, please let someone know that you are going to remain here so that they can notify the fire department when they arrive. If we do have an event where an AED or first aid kit is required, those are nearby. Just come up to the front and speak to me or to the back desk over there, and we'll get that for you. Thank you very much, and enjoy the meeting.
Thank you, sir. And now we'll have public comments. We have one speaker today. Please come forward, state your name, and if you're here in a representative capacity, please tell us who you represent.
Good morning, everybody. My name is John Shirey. I'm the president of the Reedy Creek Firefighters. I just wanted to provide a quick update on some of our big issues that we've taken on since you guys have been in place. The first being our contract negotiations. We've been working under an expired contract for the last 4 years and 4 months, and I'm just happy to announce that that contract will go to a vote by the membership next week from the 15th through the 19th. And then we'll be back here at your next scheduled board meeting for your consideration and hopefully ratification of that contract agreement. So we just greatly appreciate the leadership in getting that done and done so quickly. The other is our line of duty death issue for one of our fallen firefighters. Jim Dormany passed away 6 years ago. And thanks to you guys' direction and leadership, all of the paperwork and everything that's required to get those benefits awarded will be finalized here shortly. So I wanted to take a moment also just as a personal thing to give you guys some encouragement. I know you guys have taken on this role for free. You know, you're not being compensated in any way. And you've been attacked personally, criticized, by members of the public, the media, and whatnot. And in reality, all you guys have done is come in here and try to make this place better, not only for the employees who work here, the employees at Disney, and obviously the guests from around the world. I think that the steps that you guys have taken in regard to public safety has certainly made everybody's vacations and stays here much, much safer and a much more enjoyable experience overall. I just wanted to, tell you guys to keep up the great work. What you're doing is not going unnoticed. We appreciate you guys and everything that you're doing. We know that you won't necessarily always agree with everything that we say, but we are happy that we have this ability to have this back and forth dialogue with you guys, and just really are looking forward to the future and are optimistic for the first time in a long time. So thank you guys, and with that I'll close.
Does that conclude your remarks?
It does.
Thank you for your comments, and thank you for your service to the district. And I think it's probably appropriate for me to make some comments on behalf of this entire board. As you know, we've been working to help the firefighters with respect to a couple of issues, and we, this board, love our firefighters, okay? We love first responders. But we also need to let the employees know that we love you too, and we care about you. And as you will see, and we love you just as much as we love our firefighters. And what you're going to see, that we are going to adopt policies as a board, and these policies are going to be policies that are friendly. You're going to, some of you have already met our new administrator, and you're going to love him as much as we love him. And so we fussed over the firefighters, but I want to let you know that we're fussing over you too, and we appreciate your good work, and we mean that. Any other comments from my fellow board members? So let's go to consent agenda. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. There are no informational.
Is this one working? Okay, can you hear me now? All right, okay, awesome. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things to report on regarding our meeting locations. At the very beginning, the board greatly enhanced the public and media access to the board meetings by relocating the meetings to a larger venue like we're in today from the administration building. A few meetings ago, as directed by the chair, the district began live streaming the board meetings to continue to increase the visibility to the general public. Therefore, I think the need for the larger venue is no longer necessary because we have this greater access. So I'd like to announce that the next board meeting, which will be May 24th, will relocate back to our administration building. We'll still live stream, and so we'll still have access to the public, but we'll have, I think we can accommodate the number of people that are in this room at that location. It'll be much more convenient for everybody. Secondly, I just wanted to advise you that earlier this week, based on consultation with the chair, I executed a letter amendment to our existing power agreement with Duke Energy to address a gap in our energy portfolio caused by a delay in the completion of the NextEra solar facility that is under construction right now. That was the second one. We had talked about the Tide Bay solar facility a meeting or two ago. The second one was the NextEra facility. It's experienced some construction delays with some material deliveries. It was scheduled to start operating in June of this year, but there's going to be a 2 to 4 month delay. So I executed an agreement with Duke, a simple letter agreement to increase the capacity of that agreement to cover us during that gap period. So there's really no necessarily change to the district, but just want to let you aware of that activity. That's all I have.
Thank you. My name is Wendell Gertner. I'm with Public Resource Advisory Group, the financial advisor to the district. At our prior report on April 19th, our review of the district's utility system included the recommendation that the district engage an independent, third-party rate consultant to advise the district on proposed rates and rate structures. Our recommendation is not driven by a concern of the financial health of the utility, which is rated A1 by Moody's, A- by S&P, and A by Fitch. Rather, our recommendation is driven by best practice and policies. It's very common for governmental utilities to engage independent rate consultants. The use of an independent rate consultant can provide comfort to all interested parties, the board, staff, users, and investors, that rates cover costs and they're not too high or too low. The rates are equitable among users, and the rates are adequate to support the long-term capital needs of the system while providing as much rate stability as possible. Ensuring these goals is especially important for a combined system like the district's. With the district's utility system, all revenues from all sources are used to support operations, debt service, and capital requirements. Such revenues include charges for electricity, water, sewer, solid waste, natural gas, chilled water, and hot water. While investors and the rating agencies are focused on the overall health of the system, the districts and the users want to ensure rate equality, so that users of one portion of the system are not materially subsidizing another portion and vice versa. Additionally, as I described in our prior report, the utility services are provided through a contract with Reedy Creek Energy Services, or RCES, a wholly owned subsidiary of the Walt Disney Company. The district and RCES negotiate annually a labor services agreement that includes fees for operational services and design and support services. The estimated operational services, not including fees for design services for the current fiscal year, currently has a not to exceed of $32.7 million. An independent utility expert can assist in the fee negotiations and give comfort that the final fee amounts are appropriate for the district, for RCES, and for the users of the system. On April 19th, the board authorized PRAG to develop and distribute a solicitation for an independent rate consultant. PRAG provided the solicitation to 3 firms that we would be comfortable recommending to the district. 2 of those firms declined, citing potential conflicts of interest. We received a proposal from Raftellus last week, followed by a more detailed engagement letter over the weekend. Raftellus is a national firm with a Central Florida office. Their business is providing financial rate and management consulting services to public utilities with 140 consultants across the country. Some of the governmental utilities they work with in Florida include Hillsborough County for water, wastewater, reclaimed water, and solid waste, Fort Pierce Utility Authorities for electric and water and sewer, City of Clearwater for natural gas, and about 70 other public utilities in the state. Prague most recently worked with Raftellus on a $191 million utility bond issue for Manatee County that sold yesterday. And that included water and sewer, solid waste, and stormwater, where Raftellus prepared the feasibility report for the financing. Their engagement letter provides the following objectives that I believe capture the needs of the district. Objective 1, serve as the district's independent utility rate consultant to advise the district on the reasonableness of the proposed operations of the utility, including operations, finances, and capital investment. Objective 2, advise the district on the appropriateness and reasonableness of any annual and long-term strategic plans, forecasts, and budgets prepared by RCES and provide suggested alternatives as appropriate. Objective 3, advise the district on the appropriateness and reasonableness of the utility rates proposed by RCES in light of the district's obligations under statutes and trust indenture to set rates that are just, equitable, and uniform, and will provide for all expenses and operations and maintenance of the system. Objective 4, advise the district on the appropriateness and reasonableness of any power purchase agreements proposed by RCES. Objective 5, assist the district in evaluating and negotiating the annual operational service fee and the operational services fee cap proposed by RCES, as described in the labor service agreement. Objective 6, assist the district in evaluating and negotiating the annual design support service fee proposed by RCES and described in the labor service agreement. They then provided the tasks necessary to meet the objectives, the schedule, and the cost estimate. The schedule calls for completion of the task by fiscal year end September 30th. Their cost estimates based on the hourly rates and a not-to-exceed budget of just over $600,000, but it should be pointed out that this includes time required to create new financial models for the utility. If RCES shares their financial models, which we expect they will, the cost could be approximately 1/3 lower. Based on discussions with finance staff of the district, upon approval of the board, the district would be able to contract directly with Raftellus, avoiding additional costs of subcontracting through Prague. Upon approval by the board, the district's contracting division would incorporate the terms of the engagement letter with the district's standard contracting terms, subject to approval by the district administrator and legal counsel. Again, I want to stress that our recommendation is not the result of concerns about the financial health of the overall system. The recommendation is based on governmental best practices and good public policy. It will provide the basis for the board to meet its rate-setting obligations, under its charter and its bond covenants. There is a representative of Raftellus in attendance if the board has any specific questions. And finally, we previously recommended that the board adopt a fund balance policy for its general fund to ensure the district continues to maintain adequate reserves, and we expect to bring that policy to the board at an upcoming meeting.
Thank you for that presentation. Do any of my fellow board members have any questions or comments? The only comment I would make is this is an example of the functioning of this board differently from the old board. We are lawfully mandated to function as an independent government agency, and we can't favor one taxpayer over the other, regardless how large that taxpayer may be. And as you've just heard in this presentation, the reason we need to hire the rate-setting consultant is so that we protect all of the taxpayers within the district. And you've heard consistently that the mission of this board is to do more for more people, to make sure that the district runs more equitably, and that it's more prosperous for more people. And so the function of what we're getting ready to do with this consultant is protect all of the taxpayers within the district. This is something that was not done previously. Thank you for the presentation, and I think we'll then move to the discussion of new business, item number 1. And is there a motion from a fellow board member that we authorize the administrator to negotiate a contract pursuant to the proposal that's in the material from the rate setting consultant?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. None opposed? Passes unanimously. Item number 9.2, this is an item that Vice Chair Sasso has put on the agenda, so I'll give the floor to him on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've had this discussion, I think, at some prior board meetings, and we are, as a district, moving on and hiring a new district administrator, which I think will be coming to you very shortly. But as part of that, we also are very grateful for the service of Mr. Classy over many years. And I can speak personally, it's always been a pleasure working with you from day one until this point, and I look forward to continuing to work with you, and I think so does the board. We also want to ensure that there's a smooth and adequate transition between administrators, and I think the board still looks to you quite a bit for your wisdom and your guidance, and we're glad to have you continuing that role. And so we've put together, with consultation with council, an employment agreement that I know Mr. Classy has had a chance to also look at and consult with his attorney about, and he's gone ahead and signed it, and it's in our materials for us also to consider today. I would urge the board to, to go ahead and approve it. If you have any questions, certainly I'm happy to try and answer them. I think John might be as well. But we look forward to working with you, John, going forward in this new role, and we're very grateful, I think, all of us, for your service and your help.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Mr. Classy, you were aptly named, and you represent that name very well. You have been nothing but the consummate professional in this process. We've known each other for about 2.5 months, and I know it feels like 2.5 years, but I'm extremely grateful for all of your dedication, your commitment to the district, to your employees, to your stakeholders, to this board, and I'm grateful that you're going to continue to serve. Just because you're moving into a new position doesn't mean I'm going to stop calling you. So appreciate it, and I thank you again. Thank you.
I do want to add, I know we've challenged you at times. I know other people have challenged you. And I know there's been some hard moments, and you've overcome those, I think, with grace, and we're grateful for the hard work you put in to help us resolve some of those challenges. So thank you very much, John.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, John. And I have been struck by the overall professionalism and the quality of the people in this district. And I know that that is a direct result of your service. I also have appreciated very much the opportunity to work together with you. And now, of course, we'll be working in a little different role as a special administrator, a special advisor to us. But I just thank you. You've been fantastic and appreciate it very much.
And Bridget, welcome. We're not ignoring you. Did you have any comments?
No, well, thank you so much. I'm sorry I couldn't be there today. I would just echo what my colleagues had just mentioned. I think Mr. Classy has been incredibly supportive and helpful as we're all drinking from a fire hose very early on. And I would agree that the elements of professionalism and support that everyone, all the staff, have illustrated in a time of a bit of uncertainty, for lack of a better term, has been tremendous. So, Mr. Classy, I genuinely appreciate all that time and your continuation to serve us here.
Thank you. And I echo those comments, John. You've had to put up with me more than my fellow board members. And you've always been polite, responsive, diligent, and I have enjoyed working with you, and I'm going to continue to work with you. And I know that Glenn is also going to enjoy working with you. And so we're all deeply grateful for your good work, and we all know that the circumstances of the new board coming on have been a challenge for you and your employees, and you have made it seamless for us, and we're deeply appreciative of that. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind words.
And now we'll go to item number 9.3 on the agenda. That's consideration of an employment agreement.
Mr. Chair, I think we need to finish.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I'll make a motion that we approve the employment agreement and authorize the board engaging in the agreement.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
No one opposed, passes unanimously. Okay, now we'll go to item 9.3. And this is the consideration of an employment agreement with Mr. Gilsing. And so I think it's important for the public and the taxpayers to get a little background in terms of how this agreement came about. You heard 2 meetings ago that Mr. Classy announced that he wanted to take a different role, and you've just seen that the board has adopted an employment agreement consistent with this new role that Mr. Classy will take, and we're looking forward to his service in that capacity. And we are now proposing that we bring on a new administrator, and we have done, each board member has done their own individual due diligence, and each board member has met our new proposed administrator. And there is a contract that is a proposed contract that's part of the material, and I think it's probably important for me to explain the compensation in the agreement. We wanted to make sure that the compensation for this position was appropriate, and so some of the things that we looked at is, first and foremost, what was the range of compensation for this position developed by the old board, okay? And the range was $271,000 to $453,000. And what we're proposing is a comp level that's $53,000 less than the top line. The other thing that we looked at is, what are other special districts paying for a similar position? We looked at the Port of Jacksonville, where that comparable position is paid $438,000, the Tampa International Airport, $598,000, the Port of Tampa, $553,000, and the Canaveral Port District, $375,000. And those districts have similar sized budgets. In this district, we actually have 2 budgets that the administrator has to manage, and the geographic size of this district is much larger than those. The other thing that's important to note is that our new administrator is being paid $45,000 more than what Mr. Classy was being paid, but it's a very different job description. We are now functioning under a new legislative act, and the new legislative act not only obligates the administrator to keep the trains running within the district and make sure that everything is functioning well like it has been, but we also have a lawful obligation to provide reports to the legislature and the governor that's mandated. And one of the reasons that we've brought in some outside experts is because the district internally doesn't have that expertise. And what you're going to hear going down the road, that we're going to bring in an urban planner to perform some of the functions that are required in this reporting function. And the other thing is, there are 87 lawsuits that have been filed by Disney against Osceola and Orange County contesting their tax assessments, and the district historically has taken a neutral position, basically done nothing. And we think it's advisable for our district to take a position in that, because it's an opportunity to protect our revenues. It's an opportunity to work with the local counties, and they seem to have a good position. And so the new administrator is going to be tasked with managing that part of his obligation that was not a responsibility because of the neutral position the district took in the past. The other thing that you've heard a lot about, and it's one of the reasons that we think qualifies our new administrator so well, is that we want to be a good neighbor to Osceola and Orange County. We want to work with them because the district is important to them, the work of the district is important to them, and their work is important to us. And so there is going to be more outreach that's going to be asked of the new administrator. Fortunately, he's a local person. He's somebody that knows almost all of our local elected officials. And then finally, which is really significant, is that, when we were out looking for a new administrator, we had to be honest with him, and we couldn't just tell him the first day that he showed up that he'd just be given the keys to the front door. But we had to tell him that he is going to not only be an administrator, but he's probably going to be a defendant in a lawsuit, okay? And nobody likes to be sued. And from everything that this board has been able to determine, Mr. Classy did everything that he was asked to do by the prior board. And as you know, that prior board was directed by Disney. And notwithstanding all his good work, he was sued and is a named defendant in that federal lawsuit. And so our new administrator can plan on being a defendant in a lawsuit. And it's always challenging to recruit someone to a job and saying the first day there's going to be a process server coming down the sidewalk that's probably going to serve you with a federal lawsuit. So in light of all of those factors, the compensation range level that the old board set pursuant to the direction of Disney, the comparable compensation for other special districts, and the additional job requirements that our new administrator is going to have, I came to the determination that $400,000 was a reasonable compensation for all of this good work that we're going to expect from the new administrator. So with that explanation, what I'd like to do is make a motion that we approve the employment agreement with our new administrator. And is there a second to that motion? And sure. And then I was going to say there's a motion on the floor, a second, and are there any comments from my fellow board members?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I mentioned at the last meeting, I've had the honor of knowing Mr. Gilzine for over a decade from his time when he stepped in on very short notice and tragic circumstances to serve as a school board member in Pinellas County. And since that time, I have been so delighted that he has established himself as a highly respected CEO here in Central Florida. He was one of Orlando Business Journal's CEOs of the Year in 2019. And he also serves on the Orlando Economic Partnership with some of our biggest stakeholders within the district. So he brings those relationships, those personal relationships, and I'm sure and I know that there's mutual respect there. The thing I love the most about Glenn is that, like me, he's an eternal optimist. I would not be here if I was not optimistic. I would not be here if I didn't know that the best days of this district for all of our stakeholders are ahead. And the goal of this board is to ensure the long-term economic development, prosperity, and quality of life for this district, all of our stakeholders, and the region. And Mr. Gilzine is a bridge builder. He's a consensus builder. He's a good person. He's someone that you are going to love to work with. And he's going to be your colleague, right? You're going to be working with him. And I'm just excited. It's a great opportunity. I think it's coming at the right time. And I cannot wait to see your proactive leadership and your community building at work here in the district. So thank you, Mr. Gilzine, for your willingness to serve. We're very blessed and lucky to have you. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I met Glenn for the first time this week, and I was very impressed. And impressed not just because of his capabilities, but this job at this time requires somebody with very broad shoulders, somebody who can smile in the face of massive adversity, and someone who really deeply cares about people. He's been involved in the Step Up program, and that resonates with me. I think that it's important to break the cycles of generational poverty, and he has a heart for that, but he has a heart for a great many other things. But in all of that, he is a wise and competent businessman, a wise and competent manager and entrepreneur, and I'm thrilled that he's accepted this position. I'm looking forward to working together with you.
Thank you, Ron. Any other comments from my fellow board members? Vice Chair Sasso?
I'd echo the comments of the other board members. I've had the opportunity to work with Mr. Gilzine and know him for some time in Central Florida. His reputation is, if not one of the best in Central Florida, and I think everyone here will enjoy working with him. And I know that one thing I've observed about Mr. Gilzine is he will work late at night, early in the morning, on the weekends. So I pity all those who might have to be responsive to all of the emails and text messages, but expect a guy who's going to work 24/7 around the clock for the district and for all of us. and we're excited for that. And Glenn, I wish you all the best, and we're here to support you as a board as well.
Any other comments from my fellow board members?
Yeah, no, excuse me. I really want to echo. I think Supervisor Ongst really summarized so much of what I would want to say. I'm very excited. I had the opportunity to meet Mr. Gilzine back in 2014 when I first got involved in public service, and he has really opened my eyes early on to the best ways to bring people together and unify. And I think that's what Supervisor Ongst just brought forward. He does bring incredible optimism, but he's incredibly competent. So I was very excited to see that resume come forward, and I now am very excited to support this measure and work with him. And I want to tell all the members of the district that you have lots of reason to be excited as well. He's a tremendous leader. So looking forward to the future.
Thank you. And I have just a few brief comments. One thing I'll tell you about Mr. Gilzine that's indisputable: he's tall, dark, and handsome. And I took that away from him. He's the one that gave me that phrase when I first met him. He called me up and said, when you meet me, here's what you're going to see. And he's got a great sense of humor, and he has the good news for the employees is he has a temperament that's very similar to Mr. Classy, and that he's very gentle and very easy to work with. And so he needs no introduction to anyone who's a student of public service in the state of Florida. He's dedicated his career to providing a hand up to the underserved in our communities of Florida, and has been a resident of Orlando for the past 7 years, working closely with all of the elected officials in Osceola and Orange County. He'll make the district more responsive to the needs of those counties and to its residents. He has an extensive leadership experience as a president and CEO. He is particularly adept at serving the demographic of those who work in the district. His entrepreneurial instincts will help the district innovate a new and better urban plan that will be more equitable and more prosperous for more people. As this board continues to develop governance policies and practices that you've heard so much about for the district, his experience as a board member on the Florida Commission on Ethics will be invaluable to the district on those matters. Mr. Gilzine's diverse background and experiences will be very valuable in the district's mission to unite and better serve all the constituents of the district. And the best part is you're going to hear from Mr. Gilzine. So at this point, I would invite him to the podium to make a presentation.
Good morning. I'm truly humbled to be standing before you this morning. I would like to begin by thanking the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District Board of Supervisors for placing confidence in me. Over the course of my life, I had the great privilege of living and working throughout Florida. I was raised in South Florida, then moved to Tampa Bay to study and begin my professional career. Then 7 years ago, Central Florida became my new home, and immediately this community adopted me with open arms. Though I've now spent time in many parts of Florida, it was immediately clear that this region is essential to our great state. There's magic here, and in this new role, I will strive to ensure that more people than ever have a chance to experience it. Now, a lot has been said and written about the ongoing dispute between our state elected leaders and the Walt Disney Corporation. Let me be abundantly clear. My job is to make this district, and in turn this entire region, a better place. As such, let's continuously keep in mind that the people are at the heart of this matter. They are our constituents, the district employees, the Walt Disney employees, the small business owners, and of course, the millions of tourists who visit annually. I've watched the past meetings of the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District Board very closely, and I will attest that I've already seen very real progress. This board has enacted policies that will lead to more transparent and well-governed. And having met with the members of the board, it is evident that they are committed to improving this district through innovation and proper oversight. First on this score, I am proud that the board has enacted rules to govern its own conduct. With every board I've had the honor of working with, this action was paramount. It is very clear that the members of this board understand that before they can attempt oversight on other entities, they themselves must effectively govern. Also, critical to the better function of our region is the proper checks and balances, and of course, independence. By bringing in an independent legal counsel and an independent financial advisor, this board can now act without the pressure vested from outside influence and therefore primarily of the interests of our stakeholders. Perhaps the most important new initiative of the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District, and one that's closest to my heart, is the commitment to hire an independent urban planner to ensure that our district can grow via the addition of affordable workforce housing for our community. Previously, I served as the president and CEO of the Central Florida Urban League, and in this role, my organization helped instill important values and integrity and personal responsibility, predominantly with the African American community and the rest of the community. Of direct relevance, we've helped thousands of individuals secure their financial future by encouraging them to pursue a path towards home ownership. And for our communities, this was the first step of breaking the brutal cycle of multi-generational poverty. Yet it is important to note that several economic hardships is not restricted only to one community. Rather, it affects individuals of all backgrounds, including those with full-time jobs, and many of these individuals work right here in our district. For many years, their difficulties were deeply underappreciated, if not wholly neglected, by previous boards. I am pleased to say that the new leadership of this board instantly endeavored to finally right that situation. Nearly 60 million guests visited our 4 theme parks in this district in 2019. There's over 70,000+ employees dedicated to making their experience unforgettable. There's incredible individuals who work within the 30+ hotels, the 2 water parks, retail spaces, and vast sports complex. Stunningly, a significant number of these employees live at or below the poverty line. As such, a proper urban planning and the construction of affordable workforce housing will prove this is a huge first step in making certain that their children, their families are better off. This is critical if we truly want to be partners with the people who work here in our communities. It is also important to note that the impact of visitors to our district affects our entire regions. While tourists spend a majority of their time within our district, they still rely on outside resources to get them here. Most guests fly into an airport either in Orange or Seminole County and naturally traverse the roads throughout Central Florida. These are just 2 small examples of how the visitors are using resources that we all share. As such, I'm proposing the commissioning of a regional fiscal impact study to ensure that our district does its part to offset the burdens that the tourists have on our other resources throughout our community. Together, we will be a force of positive change in our region. And as the new district administrator, I will bring to the district the same sense of genuine community that I fostered in my previous roles. To my staff, I want to underscore that we are a team. I look forward to working with all of you. The vision of our board will not be realized without the cooperation and robust eagerness to explore new and exciting ideas. So please know that my door will always be open. Mr. Walt Disney once said, his goal was to build a city of tomorrow. The new leadership of this board is dedicated to doing just that. We are all Floridians. We want all of our businesses, both big and small, to thrive. But it can't be done without fighting. It cannot be done by fighting endless battles in courts. It can only be achieved by collaborating in the earnest to make this district a model, a world-class model of a true public-private partnership. As we embark in this new role, I invite all Floridians to come forward with your thoughts, your ideas, and your comments. We are here to serve you, to make sure that your tax dollars are spent properly for the betterment of our community, our region, and our great state. Thank you.
Well, thank you for those beautiful comments, and you are spot on, sir. We're all looking forward to working with you. And so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Congratulations. And we'll now move on to the public hearings. Item 10.1. Mr. Langley, do you have some comments, please?
Is this on? Resolution number 641, a resolution of the Board of Supervisors of the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District creating the lobbyist rules and regulations, providing for severability, conflicts, and an effective date. This is a public hearing. I will briefly comment that this is a board-driven resolution. At prior meetings, this board did request that we establish some lobbyist registration rules. So I put together this resolution to implement a process for lobbyists to register with the district and to provide for a blackout period between, for procurement matters for lobbyist activities between the time a solicitation for procurement matter is issued to the time that procurement contract is awarded. Now, it's important to note that what is lobbying is, what we think of it is traditionally is a person gets compensated to try to affect an outcome. So that you have to be a person whose job it is to try to influence the decision makers of this district to be subject to it. So it's not intended to require, let's say, a tenant who has a business, if it's their business, to approach you all to express their concerns or their opinions on matters, to have to register. But if a tenant were to pay a lobbyist firm to try to effectuate some change of policy or a decision or outcome, that person that they're hiring to lobby you would need to register. Also, this makes it clear that a lobbyist does not include the employees of the district or union representatives, representatives of any governmental entity that is communicating with you. These are very straightforward policies, very similar to what other local governments institute. There's nothing unusual about it. It's another form of transparency. So members of the public will be able to see who is attempting to effectuate some changes in your decision-making or regulations or trying to get certain approvals from this board or attempting to get contracts with the district. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to try to answer them, but the resolution is in your agenda packet, and this is a public hearing, so we would need to open it up for anyone who would like to comment at this time, if there are no questions from the board.
So first, are there any public comments? Are there any comments from my fellow board members?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just real briefly, this is just another one of those governmental best practices that we were talking about earlier. I would like to thank Vice Chair Sasso, I think, for actually suggesting it very early on. It's entirely consistent with all of the larger jurisdictions that I practice in West Central Florida. And it does not make us inaccessible to anyone. It does not require a resident to sign up as a lobbyist. It doesn't require a business owner to sign up as a lobbyist. It doesn't require one of our employees to sign up as a lobbyist. But if someone is being paid by someone else for the purpose of lobbying us, that person would have to sign up. But we still meet with them. It's just public that that person met with us and who they were representing. So it's just a level of transparency. It's best governmental practices, and it certainly does not make us any less accessible than we are. And we don't want to be inaccessible. We want to be here to hear your concerns and work collaboratively with you. So thank you.
Thank you for those clarifying comments, Supervisor Alex. I wanted to add that as a board member, I find it helpful to know who's being compensated or paid to try to reach out to me and contact me, because I know that that person is representing a group, and it facilitates some of that communication as opposed to just getting a cold call, not knowing who a person is, not knowing who a number might belong to. And I think it's going to help the board going forward to have more effective and seamless communications with stakeholders who've gone out and hired someone to try and help present their positions to us as a group. So I greatly appreciate you putting this together, Mr. Langley. Thanks for bringing it up to the board. I know you expedited this, and I think it also helps us get more mainstream with what everyone else is doing in this sector. So thank you. With that, give it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Any further comments by my fellow board members? Thank you for those comments. They're spot on. Okay, we need a motion. Is that correct? Is there a motion?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And I'm going to flip the order of the next two. We're going to go to 10.3, which is Resolution 643. And I understand the chief has a presentation on this resolution. So, Chief, I'll turn it over to you.
Mr. Chair, I might read the title first. Is this mic working? Resolution number 643, a resolution of the Board of Supervisors of the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District adopting the Florida Fire Prevention Code and creating regulations concerning false alarms and enforcement mechanisms, providing for severability, conflicts, and an effective date. Thank you.
Chief, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia, and members of the board. Before you, for your consideration this morning, you have Resolution 643. It does a number of things in my mind and our senior staff, and I want to appreciate that Dan had given us the opportunity to review all of this and make comments and make changes. First and foremost, I believe that adopting the Florida Fire Prevention Code in its entirety, in compliance with Florida Statute 633 and the Florida Administrative Code, Section 69A, it puts it in a place of prominence in its own and distinct ordinance, and it shows our resolution to follow all of the state regulations, which we currently do, but it's not recognized specifically on its own as the document that we would use. Number two, it creates some additional tools for us to use, and I'll speak a little bit about that after I get to number three. Number three, it defines the enforcement criteria and the appeals process, which is definitively laid out and gives everybody an understanding of if they feel like the code is being misapplied in their individual situation, it allows an appeal and lays out what has to be done by an owner for an appeal to what we would think is the code or how we are enforcing the code in a specific situation. Additionally, it moves on and it identifies the authority having jurisdiction, the person who's responsible for enforcing the code within the district, and that is in full compliance with 633 and 69A. It allows the fire chief and the fire marshal to make some policies as to the application of the code and how people can contact us and we can have conversation about the application of that code. It continues on and it makes some great definitions, and it defines a few things. It defines the enforcement official. It defines what a false alarm is. It defines a fire alarm system, a fire alarm technician, a fire watch, and specifically an owner, and that would be the owner of the systems that are covered by the Florida Fire Prevention Code or statute, the administrative code. It also outlines the responsibilities of each. So that clearly defines to the owners of the system what their responsibility is for maintenance and compliance with the code, and it defines our ability on how we enforce the code. Back to number two, as adding a tool, it defines a fine and a fee schedule. Fines that can be levied for lingering fire code violations, and fees that can be charged for false alarms. It gives a lot of latitude to the enforcement official on when to use this particular tool. It also takes into consideration under false alarms, there are a lot of outside influences for fire alarm systems. As you can imagine, with an electronic system or your television set or any low voltage things you have in your home, storms have a great impact on that. And this is set up to take that into account so that the officials can make a determination, is this a real false or nuisance alarm that's that's putting our personnel in jeopardy running to a location? Or is this something that's out of the owner's control? In those circumstances, it allows us to not put it in as part of the process, so that wouldn't count against you. I think that's critical, that it gives us the ability to make those determinations, and it doesn't just assess fines and fees unless it's absolutely necessary. So lastly, I think that having this as an additional tool in our arsenal in code enforcement, identifying the code, its authority, it will help us maintain the excellent, and I might add, we have and have created over a number of years an excellent fire safety record within the district, and this is a tool that I believe will enhance that ability well into the future. Lastly, it brings us into parity with most of the Central Florida fire organizations that have language like this. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell, if you have any questions.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
So would it, if we adopt this, would this be another best practices and policies that this board is bringing into the district?
Yes, sir, it would be. And the fire marshal and I spent considerable time, and Chief Ferrari reviewing it, and we would recommend that you adopt this resolution.
Are there any comments from my fellow board members? Questions? Do I have a motion? Move approval. Second? Second. All in favor, say aye. 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 Passes unanimously. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And we'll now go to 642. Let Mr. Langley speak on this. It dovetails into the resolution that we just adopted. Mr. Langley?
Resolution number 642, a resolution of the Board of Supervisors of the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District creating the Enforcement Citation Program, a special magistrate position in appeal procedures, provide for severability, conflict, and an effective date. As the chair said, that this resolution is related to the resolution you just adopted. The prior resolution creates an appeal process with a special magistrate for people that are cited for violations by the fire chief or fire marshal to appeal. And this resolution creates the framework for the special magistrate appeal process, but it also creates a platform for the district to have enforcement through this alternative means for citations for all regulations that the district has now or may in the future create. So this creates the code enforcement process for the district administrator to appoint employees of the district to serve as enforcement officers in their own specific areas of expertise. Can envision the district administrator would perhaps appoint individuals in the environmental field for enforcement of environmental regulations, et cetera, in different departments. If they determine there's a violation, they have this process as an alternative. They don't have to use this. This is merely an alternative to go to the person that they're alleging to be in violation and say, here's what you're violating, here's the notice of the provision you're in violation of. You have this many days to correct this, and if you do not, then here's your financial penalty for that. And if they disagree that they're in violation, then they have this process where they can appeal that to this independent special magistrate to contest that process, that fine or violation that's being levied upon them, and that affords a due process to that individual or that entity that is being cited for the violation. Again, we also have a delayed effectiveness of this one so the district can have opportunity to put in process measures to anticipate this process. Again, this is another tool in the toolbox for enforcement. This is an alternative. This isn't a requirement that it has to be used in every circumstance, but if there's a circumstance where this enforcement mechanism makes the most sense, is the most efficient, or just, would make a lot more sense for all parties involved, then this could be used. This is a very standard practice in local governments. I mean, I'm actually not aware of any local government in Central Florida not having some sort of code enforcement process. When you have rules and regulations and ordinances that say that, thou shalt not do X, Y, and Z, or there's a, or you're violating our code or regulations, there's always an enforcement tool that's spelled out in the regulations that's very similar to this, and this creates these good practices, best practices, opportunities. I'll tell you, one of the tools that is there for the district that is not pleasant for anybody involved is to sue the violator in court and seek an injunctive relief. That could be much more expensive for not only the district, but the violator to go through that process. So this affords actually a more effective, efficient, and cost-effective code enforcement mechanism for the district to use. Any further questions?
Any comments or questions from my fellow board members? And then, are there any public comments on either Resolution 643 or Resolution 642? Hearing none, is there a motion that, oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Susanna Reed. I happen to live in Celebration for the last 23 years, and I'm just on a learning curve here, so bear with me, please. But, you hear all kinds of things, so I'd rather not just hear things. I'd rather get the straight stuff from whoever is saying this. I understand about the fire prevention code, and I'm very concrete. So if someone was to do a false alarm, I understand that there would be a procedure for that to be addressed. So what I'm wondering about in this 642, what kinds of things would be citations? I don't have a clue. So I'd just like to understand that and understand more about that.
Mr. Langley?
Well, there would have to be a particular regulation that you would be subject to in order for you to even come and fall within this potential citation process. Are you a resident of the district, or you live outside the district?
I live in Celebration.
Okay, you wouldn't be subject to this because you're not in.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to understand, is there some place that it is described what the particular rules are so that people know?
Yeah, so this is a framework for code enforcement. There would be specific regulations that would specify what is not allowed. For instance, like in your building code, there might be a provision that says you have to use a certain material, and if you don't comply with that, this is an alternative enforcement mechanism. The building official has other mechanisms to enforce that requirement during the building process, but there would have to be a particular regulation that you'd be in violation of, and those regulations could be future regulations that the board hasn't yet adopted. There could be environmental requirements that are in resolutions. So all these are public record, and they are existing or future regulations of the district. This doesn't specify all the ways or all the regulations that this would apply to, because this is a framework to apply other regulations to this code enforcement mechanism.
Okay, I mean, I understand that. I think the reason I've asked the question is I've heard people going, oh my gosh, there are going to be citations for this or that or whatever. And so I'm just raising that question. If there's future things rules that are going to apply, where will they be? How will we know about them? Or how would anybody know about them?
Well, that's an excellent question. One of the things that I'm going to work with the staff on is creating a more transparent way for rules and regulations to be posted on the internet. There are other local governments have access and use of a service called MuniCode, where all the rules and regulations are posted on the internet. So any member of the public who has access to a computer can go and see all the rules and regulations. Currently, the district doesn't have that. There are some rules and regulations that are posted on the website. So I think that would be one way of bringing that transparency to the district, would be a service like that. or some other alternative where we maybe internally do that on our website, but that's something that we are looking into.
Thank you. Yeah, transparency is a critical piece. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your questions. Are there any other public comments or questions from the audience? Hearing none, is there a motion that we adopt this resolution 642? So moved. Second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. None opposed? Passes unanimously. And now we move down to unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business that my fellow board members would like to discuss? Or any other business? Hearing none, we will stand adjourned. Thank you all for coming.